best option jive of 2025?
Market analysis following Liberation Day. I think we have two on each of these segments that we're going through today. We're doing kind of a best of recap, give you some food for thought from some of our favorites throughout the year here. So this was our market analysis following Liberation Day. A lot of people were liberated from their money for that quick period of time. But the rest of us, it was Liberation Day, April 8th, 2025. Is when we aired this segment here. Let's do it. So over the 44 days leading up to Liberation Day, the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ fell 17 and 22% respectively, levels not seen since the COVID era sell-off. So, this was yet another one of the Armageddon type situations where it felt like, we were dead. This was a wild move when you look back in hindsight. Some of the older folks will tell you, you've never traded through a crash. You've never seen this. You get a chart like this. You could show them this and say, hey, Grandpa, I had 3 of these in 5 years.
Right. You're right. Right. I guess I'm the grandpa side. Yeah. Yeah.
But it was a huge move, obviously. So historically, only 11 occurrences where the NASDAQ fell 22% or more in 45 days. So there's only been 5 occurrences where the S&P fell 17% or more. So, these are, I think this is good context for people to understand because, the hardest thing about markets is like that fear of the unknown and the fear of the crash and the black swan and the Michael Burry and the blah, blah, blah. And so if you traded through this and if you traded through COVID, you've kind of experienced some of the worst moves. I mean, you're in the top 10 historically, it doesn't get a lot much more worse than that. Like that's what you should expect as kind of your big moves. Can it be bigger? Of course. And there can be more extreme moves. But I think this puts a little bit of context for you to kind of, quantify what it feels like and what it looks like to have that black swan type event. I think April and COVID in my book qualify as black swan events.
Okay, yeah. I mean, there is no real definition to it, so it's a personal thing. I tend to agree with you.
I mean, 87 was the event, and that's the biggest one.
Sure, that's what it's going to be. That's what it's going to be measured by. Sure.
Yeah. So can we have another one? Of course, that is a probability. When we look back at what we have had, these have been pretty severe, relative drawdowns. So, I think it just adds good context. I think that's why we included this good one.
That's right.
Next slide here. So following Liberation Day, the S&P 500 dropped over 10% in just 2 days with similar moves across major indices. Such extreme 2-day declines have occurred less than 0.1% of the time historically. So, when you see these 10% moves in a 2-day time frame, these are very rare occurrences, 2, 3, 4 standard deviation type occurrences. And so, that's kind of it's a good data point for you to understand, what your what the downside risks are. A realistic expectation for downside risks.
That's correct.
I don't think anybody can play for the next 1987.
No.
I don't even think if you are bearish, it really is a good thing for you either. I don't think anybody really benefits from, that size down move.
You're right.
When you net it out, quality of living, emotions.
I would never like to see it in my
family,
lifetime.
friends.
Lifetime. That's correct.
Yeah. Nobody wants that. Next one here. So the VIX. Oh, no, sorry. Go back. This one. Yeah. The VIX had a substantial move on 4/4, jumping to 45 from 30 in just 1 day, the 6th largest single day jump in the VIX. The following table shows The top 6 largest VIX single-day upside moves since 2004 and their causes. So, this goes back the last 20 some odd years, 21 now, because we include this year.
That doesn't even get you into 2000s. Like, it
Yeah,
doesn't get you
yeah.
under 2000. It's amazing.
Yes,
Time flies.
which is wild too. But this is, again, this is just some context to, give you, and we have '08 in there. So like you have '08, that, kind of situation is
Yeah.
baked into this data as well. But, these are huge moves in the VIX and they happen. And here are the number of occurrences where it does happen. And if you survived, that's a feather in your cap. It's way different than the trade from 2010 to 2019. That was 10 years where really nothing, you had no real event. You had the Volmageddon kind of spike and that whole, thing that kind of blew up, but that wasn't like market down pain. That was vol squeezing. That wasn't even a big move in vol. That was a 10 to 20 move in vol. These were big events. And so I think this is really good context.
Great content. Totally agree.
So a couple takeaways on this one. The April correction was one of the largest in decades, behind only 2008 and 2020. The VIX reaction was extreme, showing heightened fear and uncertainty. Diversification and risk management became critical, of course, and using risk-defined high-pop option strategies can help manage volatility and reduce tail risk. You can define the risk, and that will greatly help in these situations, especially if you are trading futures. I think the takeaway for me from this year and through the last couple of years of any futures trade, even if you have the capital to be naked, with the margin that you get, the span margining, it probably makes sense to buy 1 or 2 or 3 type tail puts just to hedge the vol explosion. Like there were so many people that did the 1-1-2s or like other strategies where the vol or even the silver situation that we're in right now, where had you bought tail cheap calls, you'd be able to hold this position. You might even be up on it.
Sure. Or you traded a product really, really small, like SLV, as opposed to SIL futures. Sure.
Yes. So that was a good one.
Yes, it was.
So next one here, trading small cap indices. This was February 21st of 2025. Let's get into this one.
Mhm.
So over the past 25 years, the IWM has outperformed the SPY 14 times, the QQQs 11 times, and both 10 times. So you have seen some outperformance in certain years here. The median annual return for IWM is 12.5%, surpassing the SPY's 11.2%. So you have more volatility in IWM, obviously, is kind of what you're getting here,
Right.
to both directions.
Right.
Next slide here. So the Russell 2000 volatility is consistently higher than SPY and Qs. IWM volatility is greater than Qs 68% of the time and almost 90% on SPY. And so when you have and this goes to the conversation we've had about silver all day today. When you have volatility, higher volatility, you do tend to get realized volatility that is higher. I mean, that's just bound to happen. The question becomes whether it's going to be greater than what is implied. When something has a high implied volatility, you should expect bigger moves relative to something that has low implied volatility.
Very good. Yep.
So most of the time, their IVs exceed their historical volatilities or their realized volatilities. Among the 500 stocks in the SPX, 100 stocks in the NDX, and 2,000 stocks in the RUT, a larger percentage of the small cap stocks show more overstated IVs compared to historical volatilities than those in SPX and NDX. This is basically a story of higher volatility. Implied volatility tends to be overstated more than lower implied volatility. This is exactly what it's telling you. It's telling you, it validates and tells you why we look for things with high volatility is because they tend to be overstated a higher percentage of the time than when volatility is low.
Yeah, you said it right. This is all about volatility, period.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Next slide here. So despite the higher volatility and weaker underlying performance in recent years, selling options in IWM remains robust, offering returns comparable to the Qs and slightly better than SPY. This is just another kind of example of volatility. Higher volatility is going to be higher potential risk, higher potential reward. I mean, that goes hand in hand.
Yeah, not too much to add. Totally agree.
So a couple takeaways here. Small cap indices and the components are more volatile than large caps. Their implied volatility is even higher, creating an advantage for option sellers. Selling options in IWM provides performance similar to the Qs and slightly better than SPY on a return on capital basis. So, diversify, trade them all. I think they all warrant positions. If you have the capital, you should be in all of them.
And diversify by strategy too, right? Probably one of the most important things we talk about all the time since we're doing recap is to diversify by strategy, not only the products that might be uncorrelated as best you can find. You certainly can get everything uncorrelated by using different strategies, which is really the key to trading. Even the S&P is down 33 and change. NASDAQ down 185, volatility up 14 cents, just under 17. The big moves really are the metals. It's been the market. It's been what everybody's been talking about as record highs have been taking, record highs in the equity markets have been taking a back seat to the record highs in the silver and gold metals markets. Today, you got a big move lower in silver, almost 6.5%, a little bit more, and gold down 3%. We'll take a quick 90-second break and come back. We got more Tasty Live after this with the opening bell, the moment you've been waiting for. We'll be back in 90 seconds of Tasty Live.